Am I supposed to talk about what we're doing here?
Do you want a YouTube video?
Yeah.
Or not?
Let's look for the Hustlin' Horsepower YouTube channel. Welcome to Hustlin' Horsepower. Here we are with Sexy Rexy, Eric Yost at Customs by Biggin, Lady Gangster Racing, and yeah. So we're working on doing some stuff with the drop axle here, where we're going to be adding some unsprung weight. There's a big difference between sprung weight and unsprung weight. The basics of it is sprung weight is weight that is above your suspension, weight that your front spring holds. Unsprung weight is weight that is below your suspension. In our case, our unsprung weight is everything from the rack and pinion to the drop axle to the brake setup to the steering components. Everything like that is all unsprung weight. We already have way too much unsprung weight. That's just part of operating an old school car like this with a drop axle. Now, when you try to lift up that weight, where we have too much shock velocity, okay? I'm gonna get a little bit technical here, but I'm gonna try to keep it relatable. With too much shock velocity, when the front end is extending too fast, and it tries to lift this front end when the shocks top out, which means there's no more travel at the point where it is right now. Okay, can you show this right here? So once the shocks reach full extension, we're dealers for Viking Performance, by the way. Reach out to us if you need some shocks. Once these
shocks are spread out all the way, there's no other option.
There's no other option but to lift the tire off the ground. When you lift the tire off the ground, with how heavy this is, it changes the pressure on the rear tire, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a bad thing in our case because this weight is too heavy. And you either have to have so much velocity that the car comes up into a 2-foot wheelie like we used to do with the Dirty 30. And we did that on purpose quite a few times because we didn't have the suspension travel that we do now with this car, the way I built the homegrown Hustler. Now, with an independent front suspension car, you probably have somewhere around, in a lightweight independent front suspension car, you could have as little as 30 pounds or less of unsprung weight on the front of your car, depending on if it's a struck car or this or that. A good set of wheels and like bias ply tires, they don't weigh a whole lot. You get very lightweight brakes. We decided to go with Willwood brakes. We're dealers for them, and they're a little bit heavier, but they're pretty robust. But if you wanted to go with like a spindle mount wheel with a very lightweight brake setup, like the Brakeman TBM brakes, or something very light like that with their style brake setup, you could get your unsprung weight very light. Something with just a single control arm on the lower half, you could end up with a very lightweight unsprung weight on the front, which doesn't really affect the chassis like it does with all the sprung weight up front. It's a whole lot less weight to try to lift up, and it doesn't change that pressure on the rear tire like it does trying to lift this up. So since we're already 10 times past that spectrum, or 10 times past that weight, actually, yeah, we're way heavy. So it is literally impossible. We have some parameters in the car that I set up in the Holley system to help with this, and it's helped out tremendously. But electronics can never fix a mechanical issue. Okay, we're working here on fixing a mechanical issue that's going to go through, and then once we work it with the electronics that we have, like we're dealers for Low Dollar Motorsports, we run their shock sensor on the car. So I do stuff with shock velocity in the Holley system, where if it's extending too fast, I can take power out of it so it doesn't top out the shocks at too much velocity and try to lift the tire. But that's a band-aid, because we want to feed as much power to this thing and get the motor up in there as fast as possible without it doing a wheelie on most of this no prep stuff. Now in later rounds, we have the ability to activate the third shock setup a little bit faster and tighten everything up. But for early rounds, we want to make it so that the car, we don't have to make any major changes in between rounds. When you're racing, stuff breaks, stuff happens, and we got to be able to focus on making my tuning changes and this and that versus making a bunch of mechanical changes to the car. So simple stuff like I could change the amount of adjustments in my 3 shock setup here on the activation point and shock settings, and by adding some weight to the bottom of this axle here, will add a bunch of stability to the front of the car as far as the amount of shock settings that we can get away with, the amount of play I can activate in my third shock. I can give it more velocity in the first couple inches of travel, and not have to worry about doing wheelies. Like I said, a wheelie on this car, or a drop axle car, is deadly. There's no way. The track has to be unbelievably sticky, and it has to be very smooth to be able to do a small wheelie and carry these tires 2 inches in the air like a very efficient drag car. We can't do that. So we got to keep these tires on the ground and do it as efficiently as possible. So that's what we're going to be doing here at Customs by Biggin. Eric Yost, we're down in Mooresville, North Carolina. It's like besides, it's not the birthplace of motorsports, but it is the mecca of a lot of racing right now. There's a lot of professional teams down here in this area. We just went to a little local restaurant here, and it's all race cars and NASCAR stuff all over the place. So we're in a good area to be working, be doing this stuff. We were supposed to be racing this weekend for Crossville, the come up race, but that's gonna be postponed to 2 weeks. And you're giving us 2 weeks of testing and 2 weeks of refinement, and we're gonna be better off. I promise you that. We'll be better off in 2 weeks than we are now, and I'm looking forward to that. So it is what it is. I guess we're gonna start mocking this up. Probably do about a 12-inch piece on this side, a 12-inch piece on this side. Make it removable, make it adjustable, and we'll walk you through once we get into the fab work on this part. Look how nice they make these things. So this is a laser cut deal for a ballast box, and you see that they make it a 16th undersize, well, an 1/8 inch undersize. So you could give a 16th fillet. So this is a 4-inch wide or 3x4 tube here, but a 3x4 tube. They make this 2 7/8 by 3 7/8. So you have a nice 90 degree deal in there. Ain't she beautiful? So here we are, guys. Maddy's setting this up in the Bridgeport here so we can add some bolt holes to secure the weight that's going to be inside of here. We'll be running a 1/2 inch bolt in here, which is plenty strong to secure the amount of weight that's in here. So I'm just simply indexing it and using it as a indexable drill press. It makes it a lot simpler, and it sure is handy to be able to work in a shop with something like this over a standard drill press or hand drilling them. But hey, we've done it both ways. It's just a little bit more efficient. Ready to do this? So you got it in 0 or not 0, right?
Yeah.
You have it reading true to earth?
Yes.
Okay, true to earth. Slide it forward a little bit. Way up there. Okay.
It's not 0.
Well, get it to 0.
0.14.
Now, the whole purpose of this ballast bar here is to keep the unsprung weight and the tires on the ground. We're past the point of no return on this car. It just like is what it is with running a drop axle. We have about 25 build videos that we still have to get done, make time to do with the building of the front suspension on this car. It's kind of involved. So there's a wishbone in there, 4-link front suspension, anti-roll bar. The rack and pinion is directly mounted to the axle. And then I fabricated up a slip joint for the steering shaft. So there's a bunch of adjustability. And in the next video here, coming up after this one, you'll see some more adjustments that we added to the front suspension to make it just a little bit more user-friendly, depending on what type of racing we're doing. Whether we're doing front end of the track stuff, back end of the track stuff, no prep racing, this or that. Here's a little picture that kind of shows the finished product. So guys, remember, keep on watching. I appreciate all of you that follow along. Hustlin' Horsepower and Lady Gangster Racing. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. And Crossville Dragway is rescheduled for November 12th. Something like that. November 12th. The weekend of November 12th. Friday and Saturday, Crossville, Tennessee. Hope to see you all there.